And we're live.
Greetings, programs, and welcome to The Gaming Outsider, a video game podcast with a focus on our incredible community, which can be found at thegamingoutsider.com, facebook.com/groups/the GoCast, and even a Discord server. There's a link in the show notes for this very episode. It is Saturday, January 4th. I'm your host, Scott Clark, and joining me is my good friend, Mr. Kevin Honingford. Kevin, how you doing?
I'm great. Yourself?
I'm good. I forgot to give you your actual title, because
No.
your title here on YouTube just says just a guy, but your real title is producer extraordinaire,
Yeah.
because Kevin is the reason that we sound as good as we do, or bad, I guess. If you want to blame somebody, it also goes to him.
There you go.
But Kevin does all the editing for the Gaming Outsider, including Patreon episodes and all that good stuff. I basically dump all the audio into a folder. He takes it and then makes magic happen and sends me a file to upload onto the website. So thank you, Kevin, for all that you do, man. I really do appreciate it.
Good. No thanks needed. Like I said, I enjoy tinkering with that kind of stuff. So
Very cool. Now, this is not our normal episode. We told you on our last episode that we're taking a couple weeks off, and that is true. We did decide to take a little bit of a break for the holidays, but we wanted to give you guys something to kind of whet your appetite before our big Game of the Year episode, which is coming on Thursday, this coming Thursday. It's my favorite episode of the year. Grant is coming to kind of moderate the whole thing, and we're actually going to have all 5 cast members. So there's going to be 6 of us on an episode. We've never done that before.
it's got to be a crowded room.
It is. And on top of that, we are also going to be, I guess for the second time, it was going to be the first time. This is the first time we're doing it. But we are going to be doing that episode live as well. So it's going to be available on YouTube, maybe Twitch. I guess we should have discussed that beforehand.
Yeah, sure. We'll figure all that out. This is our little test run.
Yeah, we're just doing this as a test
This is
run.
us ironing out the kinks that we're going to find as we go forward.
Yeah. So we are live on YouTube right now. Hopefully you can see it. If not, let us know.
I was going to say, let us know.
Because we really want to make sure that's on there. I'm actually looking at the YouTube right now, and I'm just seeing a blank screen. So I don't know what's going on. But here's what's going to happen on this episode. We wanted to do a couple special things for you. The first thing we wanted to do, I promise you, we're going to give you some samples of some Patreon episodes, some past ones, to kind of give you an idea of the content that we offer you guys for subscribing to our Patreon. As you guys know, that's how we pay for the site. That's how we pay for our hosting and all that good stuff. And we also use it to purchase games that we review on the show and then turn around and give away to the community. So we're not asking for Patreon funds to line our own pockets at all. We are using it to pay for the show and then in turn either put it towards R2V2 next year, our video game convention, or towards giveaways for the show. On top of that, Kevin also has something special planned that I'm going to let him describe in just a second. I have no idea what this is going to be about, but he wanted to talk to me about something. So we're going to go over that in just a few short minutes. But before we do, I want to make sure everybody is aware. Like I said, we are less than a week away from our Game of the Year episode. We're actually going to be recording on Tuesday. And we wanted to get your guys' input on your favorite video games of the year as well, because what we're doing is we're going to have our top game of the year, just the GoCast, like the hosts of the show, as well as our community writers. We've all voted on our favorite games, and we're going to have a number one game that is considered our game of the year. But we also want to get the listeners' game of the year. So Grant will be compiling everybody's top 10 and doing some calculations and coming up with an overall listener game of the year. And in order to get that, we need your guys' input. So in the show notes for this episode, there is a link that will take you to a Google form, and we are asking that you guys give us your top 10, or if you did not play 10 games this year, your top however many, in order, with number 1 being your absolute favorite game of 2024. And to thank you for doing that, we're going to do a giveaway. We're actually giving away 3 different games. I wanted to get one from each platform. So we've got PS5, Switch, and Xbox all represented. So if you would like to win a copy of Silent Hill 2 on PS5, a copy of Wild Bastards, which is I know Zach loves this game. He actually gave it a perfect 10 out of 10 on our website. That's on Switch. And also I needed something for Xbox. So I threw in a copy of System Shock, the remake of System Shock on Xbox.
Ooh.
All you got to do to win one of those is give us your top 10 games of the year. And then, like I said, Grant's going to do his magic. Now, you can only win one of them. So please only enter for a platform that you have access to. If you have multiple access to multiple consoles, we're going to do them in order: Silent Hill 2, then Wild Bastards, then System Shock. If you win one, you can't win another one. So keep that in mind as you decide which ones you want to enter for, and you can kind of do a check down box as to which games you want to enter the drawing for. So again, go to that link, fill it out for Grant, and then we will have the results on our Game of the Year episode, which for you guys will release on Thursday. All right, with that, I'm going to hand the reins over to Mr. Honigford because he's got something special planned. Again, I have no idea what's going to happen, but Kevin, take it away.
Greetings, programs, and welcome to... Oh, wait, you already did that. No, I'm being serious. I had this idea the other day, and I want to do this with all of you. Like, I know you all the hosts have discussed their own, their personal passions surrounding this project, The Gaming Outsider, before, through whether it's like bits and pieces of each show or community questions when people ask you about it, yada, yada, yada. But I wanted to sit down and get kind of like a deep dive into what this means to each of you.
Okay.
What you do, like what it entails you doing throughout your pursuit and all that fun jazz. So yeah, I just wanted to let people kind of get an inside look at as to what this means and what you guys do for this on a regular basis.
Okay, I'm intrigued, man. Let's do it.
So first off, I mean, again, some of these you've already spoke on numerous times, but just for the purpose of maybe there's someone out there that hasn't heard. For starters, like where did your... So how did this get started?
How did the Gaming Outsider get started, you mean?
Yes.
Just in general?
Yep.
Well, it started over 10 years ago, back in the iPod days. I listened to podcasts like crazy. When I discovered that there was talk radio that actually discussed something I was interested in, because I feel like talk radio is always either news or sports, which, hey, okay.
Right.
But when I found out that there was talk radio that talked about video games, I became obsessed. Every podcast I could get my hands on, I listened to over and over and over, and I just subscribed each week. It's been so long, Kevin, that in order to listen to podcasts, I actually had to connect an iPod to my laptop, pick which ones I wanted to download, and then upload to my iPod, and then take the iPod and plug it in. Like that. This is way before the iPhone was a big deal for me, right?
Yep. We're showing our age here a little bit.
It's weird to say that because it's only been like 10, 12 years.
Right.
But that's how I consumed podcasts when I first started listening, because that's where podcasts came from, is you listen to them on your iPod. Nowadays, you just have an app that you just download it right from the internet, and it's great. But yeah, back in the day, guys, we had to actually plug in a device into our home computer, sync that iPod with the laptop, and then go from there. So,
and that was after we had to walk uphill to school both ways.
Both ways, yes, and very, very cold. 6 feet of snow. So I listened to shows, and the more I listened, I was like, I could do that. I was just listening to people do it, and I'm like, there's no reason I can't do this. I mean, even back, I don't know if I've told this story before, but there was a Christmas one year where my mom gifted my brother and I a bunch of old cassette tapes, like audio cassette tapes. If you remember, for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, there were these little plastic things that had two wheels in them, and you would stick them into what was called a tape recorder, and you would press and record your voice. So my mom gifted my brother and I these old tapes from when I was a kid. And my brother and I used to do what we called Scott. My brother's name is Marshall. It was Scott and Marshall's radio show. And it was this collection of tapes of him and I just doing a radio program together.
Oh.
It was nothing. It was just us talking and doing and telling jokes. And at one point in there was my brother and I reviewing a video game.
Oh, wow.
It was, I don't know if you remember the game Bad Dudes. It was an arcade game called Bad Dudes. And there was an NES port of it that we had rented from our local video store. Video Age was the name of that video store. And we basically took turns playing the game while the other had the tape recorder kind of giving a play-by-play of what was going on the screen, and doing color commentary like it was a sports event. Oh, he punched that guy right in the face. He fell off the screen and he picked up a Coke and all this kind of stuff. And it was hilarious to go back and listen to.
I think that would be awesome.
My brother has them. I got to ask him if he still got them, because it'd be kind of cool to, plus my voice was about,
17
soprano level of very high pitch, but it was a lot of fun. And so apparently podcasting was in my blood, like even at an early age, even before I knew what a podcast was. And after listening to podcasts for so long, I was like, I can do this. And one of the things that bugged me about listening to podcasts after years of listening was it seemed like so many of these guys talking about games just didn't like games anymore. And it was very cool or hip, to have these hot takes of how this is like, it's everybody just crapping on games and talking about how they were broken and this game sucks. And because it elicited, controversy and got people talking about it. And I was like, I want to do a show where it's not about that, where it's people celebrating the hobby, because I grew up as a video game fan, when it wasn't cool. And I hate to sound like a hipster when I say that, but Kevin, you can attest to this.
Yeah, I think most people do actually know that there was a time when video game players were referred to as numerous names, dorks and geeks and
nerds.
Nerds. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. It was very much looked down upon by adults and kids alike. If you liked video games or D&D or comics, you didn't tell anybody about it.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have a way to express this thing that I love so much, and create a community where we celebrated this thing that I love to do so much and talked about its merits. And not just not just being sunshine and rainbows all the time. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I wanted to look at games with a critical eye, but I didn't want to speak in a way that would offend somebody making that art. You know what I mean?
It's just being objective, right?
Exactly. Like let's talk about something in a way that is fair to the critics, but also is critical. And that was kind of where my tagline derived. At the end of every episode, we say, "There's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you." And I feel like I always have to defend that, because people are like, Scott, come on, Superman 64 exists. I'm like, and I get it. There are games that are objectively bad, but I'm not going to focus on them. And there's got to be somebody out there that genuinely loves to sit down and play Superman 64.
I'm sure there might be like two. Yeah.
Right. So, the old saying of one man's trash is another man's treasure. That's kind of the mentality is I don't want to yuck anybody else's yum and just sit there and blast a game. I mean, as an example, Zach loves this game, Wild Bastards, that we're giving away.
Yep.
I bought a copy of it because I'm like, I want to be able to talk about it with him on the game. Of
course, it's going to be his Game of the Year episode. Yeah. Yep.
Right. So, like, I want to be able to speak about it. And hey, if one of my best friends recommends a game that highly, I want to check it out of curiosity. I was going to say between you and me, but this is live on a podcast. So I am not a fan of Wild Bastards.
Okay. All right.
I tried 3 or 4 different times. It's not clicking for me now. You'll hear me talk about this on the episode. I don't know if that is a Switch issue, a hardware issue, because I am playing it on Switch, where he played it on PS5. Okay. The controls just feel very off to me.
Okay.
So I may give it another shot on another platform down the road. But anyway, the reason for telling that story is I avoided telling Zach my feelings about that game because I know he loves it so much, and I just don't want to be that guy that I don't want to come across like I'm crapping on something that he loves so much.
Yeah.
And
that's fair.
And he finally asked about it, and I kind of was told him how I felt, and he says he's like, "No, dude, I'm not offended." He's like, you like what you like, and you don't like what you don't like. So, but that's the whole mentality I have with the Gaming Outsiders. I wanted it to be positive. I wanted people to come together and celebrate video games and not just focus so much on the negative. Yeah. Again, not that we can't be critical, but that we can be legit critics and not trying to be edgy, but trying to be nice,
Yeah,
if
no,
that makes sense.
okay. So my next question then is that, like, as this started off, I'm assuming it didn't like just jump into the sky and just take off immediately. What kind of challenges did you face originally when you started this whole project? Like, what was the first thing where you said, "Okay, I'm going to have to work at this"?
Well, building an audience was a little bit easier than for most, probably because my first, even before the Gaming Outsider was a podcast, we did a podcast called the Official Thread Podcast. I don't know if I've told you that, Kevin. Are you familiar with
Yep,
that?
that was with your buddy Mike, right?
Mike and Chris
Okay, yeah,
Owens and I
okay,
did that show together, and we swapped out and had some other people here, and I think Aaron was on that one for a while. Um, Failed miserably. Like,
oh,
I just did not go anywhere. We had really crappy art. Um, we were recording in a closet. I mean, it was just kind of ridiculous, and we didn't have the tools that we do now, like to do things live or to do, the editing was a lot more difficult. This things weren't quite what they are now. And I eventually let it go in favor of The Hollywood Outsider, which is the brainchild of Aaron Peterson, one of my good friends. He's actually been running a website. He ran a website in the early 2000s called The Hollywood Outsider, um, that he just did like as a blog site. And I convinced him that we should turn that into a podcast, which became the Hollywood Outsider
mm-hmm.
podcast and still running to this day. And I did that show with him for, I want to say, 6-7 years.
Oh wow,
Um,
okay,
and while that was going, I enjoyed it. Obviously, had a lot of fun doing that. Met some great friends, but decided I wanted to. I just like games better, so I asked his permission to use the name The Gaming Outsider, since the Hollywood Outsider was his baby,
yeah,
and he said that was fine. So it became kind of a sister podcast. So you know, I had a little bit of a leg up in that we had an established audience with the Hollywood Outsider already. So starting the Gaming Outsider wasn't like 0 people listening to it. It was like I got to go on there and be like, "Hey, I'm doing this other podcast. If you like games, would you come check it out?" And
okay,
we had that built in. The hard part was growing that audience, and I feel like that's even still a struggle for us today, especially because back when we started, there was some. I don't even know if I've told you this. There was something wrong with our podcast hosting service, their number gathering, their data was wrong.
oh, okay,
So we were getting 1,500 downloads an episode, and we're feeling pretty good about ourselves. And then they came to us and said, "Hey, we've been reporting numbers incorrectly, and here are your actual numbers," and they were much lower than that.
oh, ouch,
So it felt
okay,
really deflating
yeah,
to have like this what we thought was a massive audience and just get dwindled. I mean, down to like a quarter of what it
ouch,
was. So digging ourselves out of that and trying to rebuild was probably the biggest struggle because um, there's so many other podcasts out there. There's
yeah,
so many
yeah,
people doing what we're doing, and as I'm learning, there's so many people that are not doing a decent job of it. um, so it's very frustrating knowing that we have high quality production thanks to you, and we just can't seem to get as much traction. Now, we're not celebrities. um
right,
we don't have any of that kind of stuff. Like one of the podcasts I like, Nextlander, came from Giant Bomb, so they had that whole audience that they left, and they're doing great. We also don't have the luxury of doing this as our full-time job, so I can just focus on building a market and spending all my free time interacting with the audience and doing everything I can. There's a time restraint as well.
okay. So is there something that you want other like is this going forward, like as you push through, is this something that you do specifically to as an outlet for yourself, or is there something that you're hoping people get from this as well?
A little bit of both. I think in the back of my mind when I started it, I had stars in my eyes, and I was like, IGN is going to hear this podcast and they're going to be like, "We can't wait to hire that guy." You know what I mean? Or some big
Yeah,
publication
yeah,
was going to be like, "That dude is great and he's a good writer. We need to get him on staff somewhere else." So in the back of my mind, that was always part of it. the hope that somebody was going to recognize the hard work and all that, and I could make a full-time career out of it. 10 years, that hasn't happened, guys. So,
Yeah, yeah,
um, the other goal with it when I started was I wanted to get to E3. I wanted to be considered a member of the press, and we got to go there 2 or 3 times, and it was awesome. That was a very huge moment for me to be able to be a member of the press and have my press pass and get to go into things that other people couldn't and see games and report on them. Truly one of the happiest times of my life was going there with Zach and getting to do that. So that felt good. But in terms of everybody else, I just want people to have a place where they can come and have discussions, listen to what we do, discuss what we say on Discord, on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever, and have a place where it's not filled with vitriol. Where they can come and they can make a comment and not be just completely land blasted and told they're wrong.
yeah. That seems to be everywhere nowadays.
Yeah, it's been my biggest pet peeve since I was a kid is I can't stand condescension. I can't. I hate it. I absolutely hate it when someone talks down to somebody like they are better than they are. And when it comes to my favorite hobby, don't bring that to my games. We dealt
Right.
with that our entire childhood, and I wanted people to be able to come and have that conversation. And even when somebody disagrees with me or they have an opinion that I just think is crazy, I want to be able to have a conversation about it without the name calling and people getting offended. Like, let's have an open conversation about it and take those deep dives alongside something that is very, very important and fun to me, which is video games.
Okay. So where do you want this? Like, if you had a vision, if you could lay this out in front of everybody right now, where do you want? Like, what is your end goal for this right now?
Money is no object. Like, I could quit my job. Is that?
I mean, let's be kind of realistic, but yeah, like, what is your? If I mean, maybe it does come down to money. I don't know, but what do you want this to be? Like, if you could have, let's just say, money might not be a thing, but help is a thing. Like, if you could have all the help in the world to accomplish what you needed to do with this, what would that be?
I mean, ultimately, I would love to have a studio space where we actually recorded, in person together. Where you would be having a green screen behind us and we're sitting in front of microphones. Ideally, I want to have whatever game we're talking about, I want to have footage of that game on the screen with us.
That would be
We're
clever.
either, I'm thinking high production where like on the screen right now, it's you and I with our logo in the middle and this goofy
Yep.
background in the background. And that's awesome. But then like if we go into talking about a game, I want the screens to kind of go to the bottom of the screen and then most of the screen be gameplay of the game we're talking about. That's what I wanted when I was a kid. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I wanted a review where someone's talking about it and I'm, like back in the X Play days. I don't know if you remember, did you ever watch X Play?
I did not know.
uh, on G4 TV. It was like there was a X Play was a show where Morgan Webb and boy, his name is escaping me, and that's crazy. Uh, but they would review a game, and their faces wouldn't even be on it. It would just be like a recorded review of them doing that. And everybody does that now on IGN.
Right.
But I want to do that live,
Yeah.
where we're talking about a game, so that when someone it's a lot easier to ask somebody questions about a game that they haven't played when they're actually seeing footage of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes
Um,
sense.
and then the person listening to the show can actually also go and look at it and see what they're talking about. Instead of having to go and click on a link and watch the trailer for themselves, they can see it in real time. So that's kind of ideally what I'd like to do. Obviously, the distance between Zach and Alyssa makes that impossible. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah,
Um,
that's a hurdle I don't know that you'll be able to get over for that type of scenario. But go on.
Right. But but we could still do the videos. I think would be a
Yeah.
thing. It would just take some extra effort on your part because I'm not going to manage that and produce that while we're in the middle of recording. I'm just a talent, man.
Yeah. So is there anything else like I'll ask an, a a little bit later now if there's anything else you want the listeners, watchers, whatever to know. But is there anything else that people don't know about what goes into this that Like give us a look behind the scenes as to what the challenges are, like on a day-to-day basis. Like we talked about what your challenges were, getting it off the floor, getting things going,
Hmm.
kind of getting it to a smooth operation. What kind of challenges do you run into now that this has been developed for a bit? I mean, you said what, 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So you have the ins and outs a little bit. So what kind of challenges are you running into now, now that you're where you're at?
I would say the biggest thing is almost my fault because one of the goals I didn't mention that I wanted with the Gaming Outsider was I wanted to be able to rub shoulders with developers and publishers and PR reps to acquire review copies of games. Because I don't want to have to pay for every single game I'm reviewing, and it just feels cool. It feels
Yeah,
like
yeah.
an accomplishment to be able to have that relationship and get games sometimes before they're released so that I can have coverage on release day. That feels amazing. The problem with doing that is that I've spent the last 10 years trying to massage those relationships and do my best to keep communication open and get our name out there in front of these people so that when they see the Gaming Outsider, they think quality. So every time we review a game that is provided for us, there is a whole bunch of steps that I go through. Um, I get between 50 and 60 emails a day,
Oh wow. Okay.
with press releases and I have to kind of sort through those, and I have to, first off, get it to our writers. We have a room dedicated to our writers on Discord that I say, hey, I can request this game. And then if someone says, I would like to request that game, I go back to my contact and say, I've got a writer that would like to play this game. We will give you a full written review. We'll give you a link to the podcast episode with a timestamp. Please, consider us as a potential outlet. And then I put on a spreadsheet, which I know people like to make fun of me for, but it's the only way I can keep track of it. And then I wait. And if I get the review copy, I get it to the writer. I update the spreadsheet. They review the game. They write the game, or they write the review, excuse me. It goes to Zach to edit it and score it. Then it goes to Alyssa, who puts it on the website. Then it goes back to me to read through it, make sure do one extra set of eyes to give final approval, make sure the author's correct and all that good stuff. Get the pictures uploaded, and then we publish it. Then I go back to my contact, send them a link to. Oh, also we got it recorded on the episode,
Yep.
which often involves setting up a time to pre-record a review with one of our contributing writers that isn't a regular host on the show. And then getting all of that information to my contact saying, hey, thank you so much for allowing us to review this game. Here's our coverage. Please consider us in the future for any future titles we might be able to cover for you. And then going back to my spreadsheet, updating it. And I've got a whole thing that keeps track of how many reviews everybody does. That consumes a lot of my time. That
It sounds like it.
because that's just one game.
Yeah.
I think currently we've got about 12 reviews out there pending, waiting coverage. And then I've got about 20 or 30 review requests pending, waiting for answers, from the publisher, developer, or PR
Wow.
rep. And, and then I got to move them if it's too old. I'm like, oh, they obviously didn't want it. So I put it
Right.
in the no-go pile, and I just kind of keep things
So they
organized
just
that
straight
way.
up don't tell you no, they just don't answer you?
Yeah. I mean, some will respond and say, hey, we don't have any more codes available. Or, we looked at your numbers and you're not big enough for us to give you a code, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I take the shotgun approach. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
eventually the more shots you take, you're going to have a better shot of hitting something. So, that, like I said, takes up a lot of my time. Thankfully, during the holiday season, that dies down because most of the world is on break these 2 weeks out of the year.
Yeah.
And I should have told you this, but a lot of these contacts are in Europe. So I'm communicating with
Okay.
people all over the world, not just in the
That was
United
going to be
States.
what my next question is like, where is all this coming from? But no, that's I did not know that. No.
Yeah. I've even some in South America. I've got some contacts down there. Yeah, mostly Europe and America and North America though. But Yeah, like I said, I've got it down to a science in terms of going through emails. I know how to skim through an email very quickly. Look for the trailer, look for the platform. Um,
So you've got emails down to an art. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
yeah. And I don't, read every word of an email. It would take me forever. I honestly don't even watch all of the trailers, but
I don't know anybody that does read all the email, but yeah.
yeah. So that's something else I would like to do is I would love to have somebody be like a dedicated poster of, on our website of like, hey, this game just got announced, and I could just send them the press release and say, put together an article about this with the trailer, give a brief synopsis. I mean, some of it is copy and paste, but obviously you want to put our own flair into it and say, hey, watch this trailer. This game was announced. This game was announced. Like a news editor.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Like somebody that is taking, or if there's a big news story, I say, write this article, and put it up, approve it, and then we publish it on the socials. That was another step I didn't mention, by the way. Once a review is posted, posting on the socials,
Yeah.
Twitter, Facebook, all that good stuff.
Okay. So like you talked about like what you just talked about there, having other people do this stuff, and you talked about like Zach doing the editing and scoring, and Alyssa doing the putting it on the website and everything. Like so you have all these members of your, we'll call them a core crew. You obviously have to have pretty good relationships with them. I mean, like we're not talking like husband wife and stuff, but you're pretty good friends with them. Is that trust a very big issue with the group as you're doing that?
Is trust an issue?
Yeah, but like you obviously trust them to do this. Yeah, I guess I don't really know how to say what I'm actually trying to ask, but for lack of a better term, I'll just say, you trust obviously everyone to do this. Does it take a while to build rapport to have someone do that? Like if you brought, let's just say me, you brought me in to start doing the producing when Nate didn't want to do it anymore. I don't remember exactly where we were at when that started. But does it take a bit to get there, or you just kind of let them take the reins and learn as they go?
I mean, most everybody that's been brought on, I was friends with already. You know what I mean? We had one instance where I, quote unquote, hired somebody to be a news editor, someone I did not know, and it actually wound up being a really bad situation.
Oh wow. Okay.
I mean, like even before it started, it was done. So everybody else, it's just because the gaming outsider is a business, but it's a business where nobody's getting paid. It's all volunteer work. So I don't like have high demands or expectations of anybody, but those that do the work are going to get the attention. You know what I mean?
I think that's what I was trying to say. Is like that, like you just explained the question I was trying to ask, for lack of a better term. Okay, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, is so is there anything else that anyone that hasn't seen this, heard this, whatever it may be, people that are listening, watching for the first time, anything else that you think they should know or would like them to know about the gaming outsider and what it is?
Well, like I said, it's a community. I mention it every show. Come find us on Facebook, the GoCast, Twitter, at the GoCast, Discord. There's a link in the show notes. Come join and be a part of the community. Ask questions, make posts, do things to engage. If you're interested in writing, doing a review of a game. Again, it's not a paid gig. We don't have sponsors. We don't have. We have some Patreon income, but not enough to pay anybody for anything. I don't even pay myself. Literally, I've never paid myself a dime. But be a part of the community and share with somebody. That's the biggest thing. Is that people often say, well, how can I support you? How can I help you? Patreon is obviously one way, but it's not even the best way. The best way you can is by sharing with somebody that you know. Even if you don't like games, you probably know somebody or have a friend or family member in your life that does love games, and just telling them about it and saying, hey, go check out this community, be part of it, would be fantastic.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I think that pretty much ends what I had going on.
All right.
So I'll let you take back the wheel now.
Well, thanks, Kevin. That was fun. Again, I had no idea what Kevin was gonna do. He just said he wanted to interview me. So that was fun, man.
I did enjoy that. Yeah, I learned some stuff I didn't know.
And you're quite the interviewer, man. You did a good job.
Thank you.
I did not feel like you were
I,
reading. It did not feel like you were reading questions like when I do it. Like I'm just straight reading them.
oh,
So
okay.
you're very good at keeping it conversational. So
I appreciate it.
well, we got one other thing that we promised you guys before we get out of here, and that is to give you guys some samples of Patreon content. Now, if you're watching this live on YouTube, which I'm looking at the counter and it says 0, so nobody's here, and it's still showing blank on my end, by the way.
Oh, I have it up here.
You
I
do?
have it. Yep.
Maybe I just need to refresh over on my end because
yeah,
oh, there we are.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But yeah, that's going to be really cool for people to be able to watch that live. So,
Yep.
anyway, so if you're watching this live, you're not going to hear these old episodes, these old Patreon episodes. But if you're listening to this on the podcast feed, you're going to hear a couple. And we kind of hemmed and hawed about which ones we're going to do. Since Kevin put this together, I decided we were going to share with you guys our trade-off episode. It was our first trade-off episode that Kevin and I did, where we made each other play a game, and Kevin made me play Sonic the Hedgehog, which I had never played through to completion, and I made him play Link to the Past, Legend of Zelda Link to the Past on Super Nintendo. This is back from May of 2022. So
It's been that long already?
Yeah, it's, 2.5 years.
Oh, man.
And then we're also going to do an older Desert Island Games episode. We sat down. You know what? I'm going to leave that one a mystery because I had one in mind I wanted to do, but we thought that maybe we had already shared that one with people. So
I don't think it'll hurt. So let's just do it anyway.
okay, well, we're gonna play the
judgment.
The Desert Island episode with Marina Ryan. She has a fantastic podcast. She's actually in Australia. We recorded this one back on July of 23. So this one about a year and a half ago. Zach and I sat down with her, and it was a lot of fun. So again, these are just 2 samples of what we are able to provide for our patrons. We do lots of other content. We do spoiler casts. We do legacy episodes where we talk about the legacy of a specific franchise. We do Break the Seal, where we make somebody play a game that they've never played before. All kinds of good stuff. And if you subscribe at the $3 or $5 tier, you'll get 1 or 2 bonus episodes respectively. And we'd appreciate it if you checked it out at patreon.com/thegocast. But these 2 you don't have to pay for. Wanted to give you a sample, so here you go. Hope you guys enjoyed those Patreon episodes. If you'd like to hear more, please be sure to subscribe over at patreon.com/thegocast. Our next episode is going to be our Game of the Year episode. It releases on Thursday. Again, there's going to be 6 of us. It's going to be myself, Zach, CB, Jacob, Alyssa, and Grant Henry to moderate the whole thing for our Game of the Year discussion. It's going to be great. We're going to be talking about our predictions for 2025, and we're going to check in with what our predictions from how we did on our last year's predictions as well. Thank you so much for listening. That's going to do it for this episode of The Gaming Outsider. As you can tell, this was produced by Kevin Honigford, and all the music you hear is written and performed by Grant Henry of Stemage and Metroid Metal. His website is stemagemusic.com, STEMAGE music.com. Please be sure to email us if you have any questions or concerns. Our address is feedback@thegamingoutsider.com. So until next week, I'm Scott Clark with Kevin Honigford, and we are The Gaming Outsider. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you. Are you still there?
Yeah. Are you able to end recording, Mike? Something's going on my end.